Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Ajax Public Library's Adulting Get the Job program presented by the John Howard Society. My name's Julia Campbell, and I'm the Adult Services Librarian at the Ajax Library. I just wanted to start by covering a couple of housekeeping items. Today's presentation is being recorded, so I would ask that you please keep your webcam and microphones off so that you are not displayed or heard in the recording. And the camera and microphone icons can be found at the bottom left of your screen. We will have a Q&A portion after the presentation, at which point I will stop the recording to protect everyone's privacy and so that everyone feels comfortable sharing and asking questions. And at that point, please feel free to unmute yourself and turn your camera back on if you wish to do so. We have a live transcription of our program today, so if you would like to turn on the subtitle option, you can do so by clicking Live Transcript at the bottom of the Zoom and then Show Subtitles. The chat button is there along the bottom. If you have any questions or comments you would like to share, you have the option of chatting with everyone, or you can send a private message to myself, Julia, or to one of our presenters from the John Howard Society. Please feel free to ask questions throughout, and we will do our best to get to them either during the presentation or at the end. If you experience any technical difficulties, I recommend that you exit the Zoom and re-enter. If you continue to have difficulties, please place a comment in the chat, and I will do my best to assist you. So now it is my pleasure to introduce our presenters from the John Howard Society. We are very lucky to have 5 youth counselors with us today: Kashana Bailey, Braylon Whelan, Oren Chowdhury, Danon Mori, and Connor Horn. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Kashana to begin the presentation.
Thank you, Julia. Okay, so we're going to start by taking a look at what the parts of resumes are. Okay, so we'll start talking about the format of a resume. You want to make sure that your resume looks professional, and by doing that, you can use a larger font in bold for your name, so about size 16 or larger, depending on the look that you want. For headings, you want to stick with size 14 font. You want to bold those headings as well. When it comes to information that goes under those headings, you don't want any font that is smaller than size 11 or 12 and nothing larger than that. You also want to stick to a professional looking font. So something as simple as Calibri or Times New Roman is always a good option. For your name and for headings, you have the options of choosing to put them in all caps. That also helps for them to stand out more. And also for the information that is provided below, you can use bullet points just to have a clear structure. And you want to make sure that the format of your resume is consistent. So if you use 11 font for your information for one section, you want to continue to using that font for all content information below. Okay, so now we're going to talk about contact information. So as we've already discussed, using a larger font and bold for your name is always a great idea. Your name should be the largest font on your resume. So you don't want to have your headings the same size as your font. You don't want to have all of your contact information the same size as your name. But you want to be sure to not only include your name on your resume, but you want to have your contact information, which would include your phone number. And you want to make sure that the voicemail for that number is appropriate as well and professional, so that if the employer needs to leave a voicemail, they aren't able to reach you, they've heard something that was appropriate. You also want to have a professional email address, so not something that you would give to your friends or just use generally. And you also want to include your address as well. Okay. On your resume, you also want to have your objective, and this will be the second thing that you're putting under your name and your contact information. And so that will include the name of the company and the position that you're applying for. So an example of that would be to obtain a position as a line cook at Darby's, specifically at the Oshawa location. This is where you're submitting your resume, and Braylon will talk a little bit more in terms of where you can submit your resume. When you're not applying for a specific job, then you want to speak more in your objective in terms of the position only. So that would be to obtain a food service position. Okay. So you want to make sure that you're including a heading that is a highlight of your qualifications. This is an important part of your resume. And when you're including this information, you want to think how the employer would think. So what would the employer be looking for if you were applying to Darby's for a food position? What would they want to see? What skills and experiences would they want to see? And that's what you want to highlight. So you want to use keywords from the job postings that you are applying to make sure that you're a good match. You want to especially include any trainings and certifications that you have that are specific to that position. And you want to, even if you have other certifications, you want to list the ones that are specific to that position first. So that's the first one that the employer sees. And if you have experience in that position as well, you want to make sure to include that. If it's anything over 10 years, then you can just put 10 plus. Okay, so an example of what your highlights of qualifications would look like is having 5 years or more experience as a forklift operator. Some of your trainings that you can include if you do have them is WMIS, CPR, and fall safe training. So here you really want to think about your job goals. And it's important because you're also thinking about what you could put here that would make an employer continuing to read information and getting to know more about you through your resume. Okay. Now we want to talk about your relevant skills and experience. So this is just providing more detail in terms of the highlights of qualifications that you've already shared. And this is matching your skills with the employer needs. So then again, looking back at the job description, using keywords from that job posting and giving specific examples of your skills and your abilities. So an example would be rather than saying that met deadlines, you can give examples of the deadline that you met, how, and any information that is specific to that. You also want to have a heading that talks about your work history. So this is sharing duties that match the employer, what the employer is looking for again, and as well just giving specific details on your past work experience. Another heading that should be included on your resume is education and training. So this is where you're sharing any educational background information, any trainings and certifications that you've already put in your highlights of qualifications that would be required for the position that you're posting to. Again, if you're making your resume specific to that job posting. Okay, so under headings, you can use subheadings, and this is to point out your transferable skills. Okay, so you want to be specific about what you have accomplished. So for example, if you worked in customer service, you want to be sure to put that you have that experience. If you have a background in communication, if you have any retail experience, general labor, organization, or food services. And for your work history, now we're talking about bolding your headings. You want to have those job titles in bold, so then they're standing out. So it's easy for the employer to read and to know exactly what information is for which heading. You want to also include in that under those headings, you want to include the company name, not just what you've the role was that you did at that job position, but the name of the company that you worked at, the location of the company, and the date that you worked there. So you want to be sure to include months, because if you're only including years and say you worked there from January to April, that's not a full year. So you want to be more specific in terms of the dates of employment. You also want to include any accomplishments that you've had while you were in that position. And you want to be very specific about it, right? You really are trying to give as much information to the employer as you can through your resume before you're able to have an interview with them. So an example of that in your accomplishments and being specific is saying that you resolved 180 customer concerns each day rather than just saying that you provided customer service. Under the heading of education and training, you want to be sure to, again, list your educational background, any trainings and certificates that you've received and completed. If there's any that are that have expired, you still want to include those as past training opportunities, just so the employer knows that you have taken them previously. Again, examples of those trainings that you can take are CPR, first aid, WMIS. And for the STEP program, these trainings, for example, CPR in first aid and WMIS and basic food safety are some of the opportunities that you have to complete in the program as well, and then add them onto your resume. An important thing too in terms of the STEP program is that you can also include your involvement with the program on your resume, and it also goes under an education and training opportunity that you've had. And under when, sorry, okay. Sorry, I just wanted to mention quickly that just like when it comes to work history, including employment dates, you also want to include graduation dates and be specific as well. Okay, so we spoke about having your objective and your highlights of qualifications being very specific to the job that you're posting, that you're applying to. So a targeted resume aims specifically at one job posting. And so the example that we would go back to is applying to Darby's for a food service position. So you show one specific employer how your skills match the job posting and job description that is specific for Darby's, not just any food service position. And you can do this by using keywords and phrases. So pulling out those keywords and phrases from those job posting is easy and simple way to do that. And it really helps you stand out from the crowd. It helps you stand out in terms of the employer being able to see those skills on your resume and see that they match those skills that they're looking for that employment opportunity. Okay, so again, using keywords and phrases. So good job postings give really well-worded specific job descriptions. And what they're looking for, what the employer is looking for will often appear more than once for what that job requires. So if you do have those skills, again, you want to make sure that you're showing them to the employer. So then this also helps you to get to that next step of being able to have an interview and to speak more about yourself. But this is just the first opportunity to let the employer know who you are, what your experiences are, and why you are a good fit for that job. So each bullet in your resume should be as specific as possible and describe your accomplishments in detail. Okay, so would anyone, okay, sorry. So you can analyze the job postings by listing the top 5 skills required, listing keywords, listing required qualifications, listing level of experience, listing job skills, and putting in order from most to least important. So on a job posting, it will give you a description about the business, about the company. It will give a little bit of some information in terms of what your job description would look like, what your role in the job would look like, and what experiences and qualifications you would have in order to receive the job. And so those are some of the things that you can pull out the words and to be more specific in terms of tailoring your resume to that job posting to stand out for the employer. Okay, so everything that we've spoke about is of course a resume due. So we want to make sure that we're making our resumes that they're looking professional. We want to use headings, use larger fonts for headings and bolding our headings as well. And we've also talked about having our name and contact information bolded so it's standing out. You want to include all contact information. You want to have a specific objective. And again, if your resume is targeted, then you're pulling out more words and description and target words from the job description and using that in your resume. You want to make sure that you're checking your resume over again and again and checking for any spelling errors, checking for consistency, and making sure that it looks professional. And you want to be sure to emphasize on your skills and achievement and your experiences and accomplishment, and why you would be a good candidate to this employer. So some things that you don't want to include on your resume are pictures. You also don't want to include your social insurance number. Like we've spoken about, you do want to include contact information, but nothing personal. So you don't want to include anything in terms of your marital status, your family, if you have any children, anything like that. You also, again, don't want to have an unprofessional email address or even a voicemail that isn't professional or very clear about who the employer is contacting, because you can have your number there, they call you and it doesn't say your name. You also don't want to include any outdated experience. So anything that is more recent, such as within the past 5 years or so, is always great to add to the top of the list of experience that you've listed. You also don't want to be repetitive in terms of the information you're providing. And so when you have your highlights of qualifications, it's okay to take from the your work history descriptions and add that into your highlight of qualifications. But you don't want to keep repeating that you provided customer service. You want to give a little bit more detailed information in terms of that. And you don't want to exaggerate your skills. So if you haven't done something specific that you see the employer is looking for, you want to be as truthful in terms of what you have, what your skills and experiences are. Okay. And when you are applying for a job, you want to always make sure that you have references handy for when you have your interview or for when the employer is requesting them. And you can do this by having them on a separate sheet of paper, and have it ready to give to the employer when they do request it. And you want to make sure that you're keeping in contact with the references that you have listed, that you have given them a heads up that you've applied for this position or that you are interviewing for a specific position. You want to give that reference some information in regards to what the position is like, and maybe also send them an updated copy of your resume, and just briefly explain to them what the job is so that they know that when they're speaking with the employer, they're also highlighting your skills and qualifications. And cover letters. So a cover letter is a more detailed description of your skills and qualifications, what you know about the job as well. And you always want to be sure to include a cover letter whenever you're submitting your resume. And this just shows that you're making an effort. And it also gives you some extra space to say more about yourself that you weren't able to say on your resume. And it also shows that you're very interested in the company that you're applying to, and you know a little bit more about it. Again, you can pull from the job description in when you're doing this, is when you're writing your cover letter. And you want to make sure just to highlight your skills and use keywords and phrases that really align with the job posting and the job description, and really show who you are, show your personality and your passion for whatever position it is that you are applying for and for the company that you're applying to. Okay. So just to recap what we just discussed in terms of resumes and formatting and what you should and shouldn't include on there. You always want to grab an employer's attention by putting your top 5 skills in your highlights of qualifications. You want to know what your skills and abilities are, because then this makes you more comfortable in having conversations about them and including in your cover letter and on your resume. And you also want to learn how to analyze job postings for specific requirements. So we spoke about this in terms of the job posting stating what they're looking for in an employee. That's one way that you can reference on how to analyze the job postings. And you want to make sure that each skill heading matches job requirements, and use the same keywords as often as possible that are within that job description.
All right, so now we're going to talk a little bit about how to apply for jobs, specifically on Indeed. So Indeed is the #1 job site in the world. It collects postings from job boards, company websites, staffing firms, and thousands of different websites. Some jobs allow you to directly apply with your Indeed profile, while others will direct you to the company's page. And it is a completely free service with job search, company information, and other relevant information for job seekers, as well as for employers. So what will you need to begin? So you'll need access to an email address. You'll need access to a computer or electronic device. Suitable devices include smartphone, tablet, iPad, laptop, or desktop. If you are using a phone, you can either download the Indeed app or you can go on the web browser. So to create an account, you'll need to enter your email address, create a password, and verify the account via your email. You may also use quick sign-in options by linking your Google, Apple, or Facebook account to create an Indeed account as well. Now that you have an account, you can start looking for jobs. So in the what column, you want to write specific employers if you have a certain one in mind. So that could be like a restaurant you have in mind or a retail store that you have in mind, or you can write what role you have in mind. So that could be maybe customer service if you want to be a little bit more broad, or cashier or general laborer, depending on what you're looking for. Perfect. So next you want to change the filters. So at the very top, when you're on the website, there's a bunch of filters. So ideally you want to change the date that the jobs were posted to the last 7 days. Because usually if you don't change this, it will give you postings that were posted a month ago. And usually those postings have already been filled. So you don't want to waste your time and apply to those jobs when the position has already been filled. Depending how far you want to travel, you can also change the distance of the jobs. So if you're not comfortable traveling to a different city, you can make it smaller. Then you can also filter based on part-time or full-time, again, depending on what you're looking for. After searching a keyword or company, a box will appear on the right of the screen, just what's circled there. This is where you can sign up for email alerts and new jobs that meet that search criteria that you were looking for will be directly sent to your email. So there are 2 routes to apply for a job on Indeed. There is an easily apply through Indeed. With some job postings, you'll see a button allowing you to click apply now. Since you already have an account, all you'll need to do is attach your cover letter or fill in the message to employer section. And then some job postings will say apply through company site. If you click this button, it will redirect you to the company's webpage with their application process. Additional documents to attach would be a cover letter showcasing your ability and the needs of the employer. So like Kushana said, a cover letter is an important way to showcase how your unique combination of skills and experience meet the key requirements of the job description. Cover letters allow you to show a clear link between your knowledge, experience, and abilities and with the needs of the employer. If you do not wish to submit a cover letter, you can also use the message to employer section instead. This does not fully replace a cover letter. However, it still does show your interest in the position. An example message could be like, "Hi, my name is Breland. Please accept my resume as my interest for the available cashier position. Thank you for your time and consideration. I look forward to hearing from you." So it's important to regularly check your message center on Indeed and your personal email linked to your Indeed account. after you have applied to a job position. This will help you to respond promptly if an employer does contact you. After you have applied to jobs, ensure to follow up with the employer. This shows your interest in the company. You can do so either through email or through a phone call. It helps to keep your name at the top of the hiring manager's mind. And even if it does not lead to an immediate hire, you'll make a great impression that could pay off down the line. So quick summary. So Indeed is a multi-source service that has a lot to offer for job seekers. It is free to use and offers many different features. Other features include you can look at company reviews, you can find salaries for different jobs, you can find career advice on there, as well as they post Indeed events such as job fairs or local events for job seekers.
So now we will talk about cold calling and interviewing. So cold calling is a great way where you can connect with the employer. So what is cold calling? This is a practice of contacting potential employers directly by phone without prior any contact and market yourself. So how you can accomplish that? This is the best way that when you can identify and understand your own skills and how they are relevant to the employers that the job that you have approached and the jobs that are available right now. So before you call, make sure you set a goal, like what kind of jobs you're looking for, and check online for opportunities that are available. Research the company as well. Find out the right time to call. For example, if you are looking for employment opportunity in retail, make sure you know the hours. Sometimes like after 5 o'clock, it gets busy. So it's better to call before 5 p.m. Also find out who you want to talk with. It is always recommended you talk to the manager or assistant manager to any store or any company you want to apply for. Create a phone list and also write a 30-second speech with the opening statement. We'll discuss about the 30-second speech later. And also always practice with the call with your friends or family member. There are some tips for the cold calling. Always consider, since we are in COVID-19 situation, so consider the companies that are less impacted by the COVID-19. Look at the company website if you can get a manager's name. Also, you can call ahead of time and who you should speak with about the job openings. Don't call, as I mentioned, don't call when the business will be likely very busy. And also indicate why you are calling for, your interest, and who and how you would be fit in the 30-second speech. So during the call, make sure you always edit your script for each call, and then you can fit in the job and the company. Always have a pen and paper so that if they give you any information, you can write it down. Have your resume inside so that if you forget any information, you can see and you can tell about it. Also have a quiet room so that you can listen and you can answer the question if employer asks you. Prepare mentally for each call as well and be polite and professional. Stand up if necessary when making the call so that you are clear, you sound clear and confident, and always get to the point. So after the call, make sure you log all the employers that you have called and have a note of the conversation. You can always follow up by phone or email 5 to 7 days business days. Always recommended to add new employers rather than continue contact with the previous employer that you have already connected. And also keep a job log so that you can keep a track of who you talk already. Keep a note of individual that you speak with and if they are hiring. In the follow-up, always make sure you thank the individual and you speak about your interest about the job. Do not afraid of the rejection. This is always a part of the process. So the 30-second sales speech is basically where you introduce about yourself, you state your name and give a little background. For example, my name is Orin Chaudhary. I'm graduated from Durham College with a social service worker diploma. So you give a little background of yourself. Always explain and provide context why you have been calling for, what are your reasons, and make a connection of your skills and your experiences with the company or the jobs they're looking for. And ask question if they are hiring right now. And when you close out, make sure you are polite and professional and always thank the individual that you are speaking with. Do not ramble and always like practice and revise. So if you are selected for the interview, make sure you make a great first impression. So impression is an opinion or a feeling that you have about someone or something you have seen but do not know very well. So for first impression is that opinions that you form immediately before you know anyone thoroughly. So make sure in the interview, during the interview, you make a good impression. There are a few factors that can influence for creating a good impression. Clothing can be a good thing. This is a most noticeable thing about a person. So make sure you dress up properly. Have a professional attire is a really good sense of having a potential job opportunity. And also look for the hygiene. Bathe if necessary, trim your nails, have a well kept and clean hair. Be mindful about your body odor and have a good breath, and always like clean wear clothes. Arriving on time is also important if you are show up for the interview. Employer always use it as being on time as a measure of how a person will perform on the job. So make sure you arrive at least 10 to 15 minutes earlier before you are scheduled for the interview. Also, body language is important. So make sure you are aware of it. A proper handshake should be firm, not bone crashing. And make sure you have a good eye contact and be aware of your posture. Stay focused and attentive when when the employer will be asking questions. Being friendly and courteous always shows that you can be very respectful and attentive at the same time. And sometimes employer asks the receptionist about the first impression. So always make sure you make a good first impression.
Hi, everyone. So this concludes our workshop in terms of the process of starting your resume development all the way to interviewing. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the John Howard Society STEP program, which all of the counselors here on the call are represented of. So who are we? So our goal in the STEP program is to empower and support youth with their transition to full-time work or post-secondary education. We offer paid employment services and skills training for up to 19 weeks. You're able to also earn certifications and receive support for application for post-secondary. And we offer programming to those who are residing in Durham region currently. So here's a little bit of our program timeline. So our next intake starts October 4th and it ends on October 19th. This is for 7 weeks total. So it is 5 weeks of blend of virtual and potentially in-person employment training services and 2 weeks of a mix of in-person and virtual certifications. As Kashana mentioned at the beginning of the call, some of the certifications that we offer are basic food safety, first aid and CPR, WMIS, working at heights, personality dimensions, some diversity, equity, and inclusion training, as well as some crisis prevention intervention trainings as well. Once you have completed your 7 weeks of employment skills training, you will be entitled to a quality employment opportunity for 12 weeks total. And the goal with the intention is that once you finish your 12-week employment opportunity, that you will be retained in your position in a full-time capacity. So another aspect of our program that we offer alongside assisting with employment and job searching is post-secondary applications. So we can assist with securing apprenticeship opportunities as well. And we also assist with applications to Ontario universities or college application services sites. Because of COVID, we unfortunately haven't been able to do in-person tours, but we can also arrange virtual campus tours of any educational institution that's locally that you wish to apply to, so you can kind of get a sense of the atmosphere and the dynamic of going to college or university. So all that you need to have to join our program is you just need to know your social insurance number, a piece of photo ID, so that can include a passport, driver's license, health card, or status card, reliable access to a phone to communicate with your counselors. You also need a bank account, access to direct deposit or a void check. Because our program does have an online component, we recommend that you do have a computer to do assignments and to be on Zoom calls with us. If you don't have that technology, we can also support that to you as well. So just kind of to break down in terms of what your day-to-day would look like in our program. So what counselors would expect from potential participants would be a commitment of 5 hours per day. So this includes 1 hour of a workshop in the morning, 3 hours of given independent assignment time, and then 1 hour to check in with your youth counselors in the afternoon. We expect to maintain open communication so that it can include phone calls, texts, emails, and Zoom participation. The purpose of our employment skills training is to essentially emulate getting ready for work and transitioning into the workplace. So, if you were employed somewhere and your boss called you, the expectation would be that you would call them back or maintain communication with them. So we kind of try to emulate that same thing as well within our program. We also maintain dialogue with any community agencies that some of our participants might be involved in. So these community agencies that we have partnered with so far include Ontario Works, the Visor Program, Probation and Parole, Employment, Ontario Service Providers, and also any continuing education or adult education institutions. And then obviously, as I mentioned earlier, in terms of emulating the environment of going to work, we expect that participants display some punctuality and time management, arriving for workshops and check-ins on time, and assignments submitted on time as well. So what participants can expect in our program: 7 weeks of paid employment training with certifications included, case management support, a quality employment opportunity for 12 weeks with the goal of full-time employment, financial support for employment success. So if you obtain employment through our program, we can pay for any uniform needs that you may have, transportation needs, or any other equipment. Financial support for educational goals, which essentially means we'll pay for your application. And as well as, sorry, the panel is covering the bottom line here and I can't see it. Sorry, would somebody be able to come off mute and just read the bottom line? It's covering and I can't minimize it.
Program completion bonuses.
Okay, thank you, Berlin. So essentially, when you complete any of the milestones within our program, you're also eligible for some completion bonuses or bonus checks, I guess you could call them. So some of the examples of what would be included in our employment skills training. So some of our weekly modules include topics such as health and wellness, employment skills, which is similar to some of the content that we've talked about tonight. Essential skills, so basically just some essential skills that maybe some participants need brushing up on. So for example, navigating money or navigating communication tactics, financial literacy, soft skills solutions, which is another type of certificate that kind of more formalizes those essential skills. That comes with a certification as well that employers really like to see on a resume. And some other certifications that I mentioned as well: basic food safety, smart serve, working at heights, CPR and first aid level A, WMIS, AODA. So these are some of the employment opportunities that participants in our program have either developed on their own with the experience of our program, or employers that we have connected with in the community. So currently we are working with multiple Burger Kings in Durham region, Simcoe Hall Settlement House in Oshawa, multiple Sobeys locations, multiple Freshco locations, Midas, which is the oil change company that's all over Durham region as well, Lone Star Texas Grill, Billiard Insurance Group, Autism Home Base Durham, Active Green and Ross, Durham Pallet, The Mandarin, Pet Value, Shoppers Drug Mart, and Throne Plumbing, which is one of our apprenticeship opportunities that we were able to develop. And some placements that participants found on their own include Walmart, Concentrix, Winners, multiple daycares, Starbucks, and Amazon. So here are some upcoming dates here. I'll leave this on the screen for just a few seconds in case you wanted to take a picture of this for later. So we stagger our intakes because each intake is quite intensive and it's up to 19 weeks. So our next intake starts on October 4th. And it ends on the 19th. The 7 weeks of EST ends on the 19th. And then from the 22nd to the 11th is that 12-week period where you'll be in your quality employment opportunity with youth counselor support. And here are the following dates for those. So let's say, hypothetically speaking, for anyone that's on the call or watches the video later, maybe you're in grade 12 and you're still finishing out your high school education, but you're not sure what you'd like to do after. Keep in mind that we will have intakes that start the following year in June. So if that's a timeline that maybe for you that you would be interested in this program, feel free to keep this in mind and reach out to us then. And that is everything.
Great. I just wanted to give a huge thank you to all of our John Howard counselors who joined us tonight and shared such valuable information. I'm now going to stop the recording and open it up and see if anyone has any questions.